Thank you again for tuning in on the update on Henri's update. Good amount of progress has been made since we last met, and we'll continue to stay. Staying up to date on the latest information is the best way to keep your family safe. And we continue to say, stay at home, stay off the roads, let us do the work that's being done by the professionals here that we all rely on. And we'll see the green light very shortly. A short while ago, I got back from surveying the storm's impact in South County with local officials. I was able to see some of the damage specifically in Westerly and Narragansett. There we saw what you would expect: down trees, down power lines, and minor flooding. I also did not pull out on the roads, and for that I want to say thank you, RHODE, for taking that advice of staying home on this Sunday and allowing everyone that is doing the work to be doing. We've asked to continue to stay off the roads this evening so that the crews can get them cleared of debris. About an hour ago, there were about 83,000 Rhode Islanders without power. The latest estimate I've got was decreased to about 75,000. Now, as the storm begins to pass out of the state, the important work of recovery must begin promptly. I've asked the National Grid to begin recovery efforts during daylight hours today so that we can get a jump on restoration efforts. The sooner that we get the 75,000 households or businesses back with power, the sooner we start our recovery. I'm pleased to report the National Grid has crews already out across the state working on restoration. And I want to thank those line and forestry crews for their efforts. Please continue to stay out of their way so that they can get their work done. Please continue to stay at home, stay away from any wires or any branches or any trees down. Let us do the work and keep you safe, keep your family safe. We are expecting temperatures in the 90s beginning on Tuesday. And this is not going lost on us. We know that that's an issue, and that's why getting power restored is critical for the health and safety of our residents, our economy, and our small businesses to make sure that they're operating. If you're experiencing loss of power, you can report it by calling 1-800-465-1212. Again, that's 1-800-465-1212. The state has activated the Rhode Island Damage Assessment Plan. We will now obtain an assessment of the damage within the state caused by the tropical storm to help guide our response. The data will be reported to RIEMA's recovery team and will include information from local emergency managers of impacted jurisdictions, followed by a verification by a designated joint FEMA and state preliminary damage assessment team, and will continue to be working with all our municipal leaders I've been in contact with several of them who have indicated that their communities are in good shape. But we do know that the areas in South County continue to be the ones that have the most outages. That's in Exeter and Richmond, Charlestown, Westerly, South Kingstown, Narragansett, and the communities in that general vicinity. So our focus is there. But if you have outages in your community, you should be letting us know. You can call that number, 1-800-465-1212. So it'll take us days to assess every part of the state to understand the extent of the damages, and we want to hear from you because we want to make sure that we access all the available resources that the President and FEMA have agreed to help the state of Rhode Island recover very fast. And that's our plan, to recover quickly so that we can keep people safe, keep our economy going, and keep our standing as one of the fastest recovering economies in the country over the last 18 months. A couple of the updates before I turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor. I've rescinded the order banning tractor trailers and motorcycles on our state roads effective immediately. All the bridges that were closed earlier are now open to all traffic. The adverse weather policy for state employees will end at midnight tonight, returning to normal operations in the morning. Twin River will reopen at 9 a.m. tomorrow. All COVID-19 testing sites will be open tomorrow except Westerly, which will reopen on Tuesday. If you had an appointment that was canceled today, you can just show up at the site and you will be tested. All of our COVID vaccination pop-up clinics that were scheduled for Monday have been rescheduled. Our team has reached out to everyone that has registered to reschedule. All of our vaccination pop-up clinics scheduled for Tuesday will go on as planned. Otherwise, pharmacies and other locations are based on power availability. And I do want to just thank all our first responders with the Guard, the National Guard, your team as well, Director, with our state police, our local responders, our National Grid. We all know that we have gone through a very difficult time, and our resources have been tested to the nth degree. And yet, we were able to respond to an emergency like this in a professional way to keep the people of Rhode Island safe. So I just thank them, not only your local, but your state and your federal people who are working with us. And I do want to say that we have kept our federal delegation informed. I've had 2 calls with them and their offices, along with our general offices and the General Assembly, with the leadership in both the House and the Senate, as well as all our municipal leaders who have been available to us. And so please thank them for their leadership, especially coming out of the time frame that we've just come out. And we still have work to do on the COVID and the Delta variant. So after we get this cleaned up, we're going to get right back to work to make sure that everybody's safe, the economy keeps on moving in the right direction, and our schools are open safely. So with that, I would like to turn it over to our Lieutenant Governor. Come on up. Thank you. Let me take that out of your way.
Thank you, Governor. Buenas tardes. I'm going to give a brief summary in Spanish for our community that are tuning in. Buenas tardes. Queremos avisarle a toda nuestra comunidad que estamos reportando varios árboles caídos y varias líneas eléctricas también que están caídas en el suelo ahora, y les recordamos a toda la ciudadanía que tengan cuidado porque esas líneas eléctricas pueden estar vivas y son muy peligrosas, así que tengan cuidado. Hace una hora se reportaban que habían 83,000 personas sin electricidad. Ese número ha bajado a 75,000 después de hace una hora. El Departamento de Emergencias del Estado de Rhode Island ya está trabajando en el modo de recuperación. La tormenta ya se ha movido fuera del Estado de Rhode Island y todos los departamentos de emergencia ahora se están moviendo a la etapa de recuperación. Va a llevar varios días el recuperar la energía eléctrica en todos los lugares, pero el gobernador le ha indicado a National Grid que quiere que esto sea una prioridad y que vuelva la energía eléctrica lo antes posible. Si usted tiene todavía no tiene energía eléctrica, puede reportarlo al National Grid. El teléfono es 1-800-465-1212. 1-800-465-1212. También cualquier otra necesidad que tenga puede siempre llamar al 211 de United Way. Ya estamos progresando mediante esta tormenta, según la tormenta se aleja, y todos los puentes ya están abiertos y el gobernador ya ha rescindido la orden para que los motocicletas y los camiones los camiones grandes puedan transitar otra vez en nuestras calles. Por último, queremos agradecer inmensamente al equipo de emergencia, al director PAPPAS, al coronel de la policía Manning y también al director del National Guard, también por todo su apoyo y todo lo que ellos han hecho para esta labor de recuperación. A General Callahan, también gracias por todo su trabajo. Y por último, a la Cruz Roja, que está aquí con nosotros, ha estado también Susan, gracias por la labor. Okay? With that, I'm going to pass Director PAPPAS back.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I just want to thank the Governor and Lieutenant Governor for their unwavering support of RIEMA throughout the event. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Okay. Earlier today, Tropical Storm Henri made landfall on Block Island and then over near the westerly Charleston border. As anticipated, we're seeing strong winds still, down trees, power lines, storm surges, and some coastal flooding. Thousands of homes and businesses are without power currently and could remain without power for some time. Our key message has remained the same. Stay home, stay safe, stay off the roads, and stay tuned. Again, please remain at home. Now is not the time to be outside or on the roads. Even if it appears the storm is past, flooding of the roadways and homes, high winds and fallen trees and power lines remain persistent throughout the coastal communities. We have experts here from FEMA and National Grid that are working in partnership to begin restoring power to Rhode Island homes and businesses as quickly and as safely as possible. Please do your part by staying off the roads. We need to keep our roads clear so that emergency and utility vehicles can travel efficiently so you can remain safe and our trained professionals can begin their restoration processes as quickly as possible. Please continue to stay informed as the storm continues to make its way throughout our region. As you can see, it's curving back around into Massachusetts. We keep the public informed, so please stay tuned for more details this evening and into tomorrow. The best way to stay informed is through television, radio, and social media. Please continue to follow the Governor and the Rhode Island EMA social channels for the latest updates. Please check in with your loved ones, particularly the elderly and those who need special care. If you have questions, you can still dial 211. We have them still activated, and we thank the United Way for their help throughout this process. Thank you very much, and the panel is prepared to take questions at this time.
So we're going to start over here and use microphones so everyone at home can hear the questions as well as answers.
Governor, in your travels, thank you. Governor, in your travels today, did you see any significant damage, or have you heard of any significant damage that's going to require attention?
Right now it's outages, power outages. I certainly saw that in all the communities that I visited. Several trees are down, Narragansett more so than and then westerly, but right now it's, we didn't see anything significant, but that's why we're going to reassess over the next few days in terms of what is out there, because we want to make sure that if there are some damages, that we want to recover as much of the funds as we possibly can under the disaster order that emergency order that the President signed.
Director Pappas, is
Yes,
it fair to say that the effects of the storm were not as bad as the worst case scenario that we had originally feared? And also a sort of follow-up, what else do we have to be on the lookout for in the next few hours? And the storm, as you said, is going to go back through Massachusetts and continue to do some damage.
Yeah, I would say not as bad, it turned out. I think we got a little lucky, dodged a bullet. Storm surge stayed down below the 3 to 5 foot. We're still continuing to monitor the storm surge because it still could go up with the tide. What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
What should we continue to be on the lookout for in the next few hours? Obviously, people should continue to stay at home. What should people be wary of?
Stay at home. Let the crews do their jobs. There's got a lot of first responders and National Grid crews out on the roads. We don't want to block their progress. It's still kind of windy out there, as you noted, coming in. Those wraparound winds will be with us for a while, probably till 8 o'clock or so. We'll kind of slow down to about 15, 20 miles an hour, and the grid crew should be really able to attack and take a big bite at that power outage starting then.
Director, what's your message to private or public sector employers about work tomorrow? Should businesses be opening? Should people be prepared to go to work tomorrow?
Yeah, like I said, I think, you know, we dodged a pretty good bullet here. Roads are are open, from what I've seen in the EOC. So I think that, and as the governor said, we're lifting the adverse weather policy. I feel strongly that folks can go to work tomorrow.
This question is for Terry. Given the fact that grid crews are already out and about getting a jump start on restoration efforts, do you still think this is going to be a long duration event, a multi-day event, or can you give us a sense of maybe an updated timeline for when most people will be back on?
At this point in time, I would say it is still a multi-day event. In total, we've seen well over 100,000 customers lose power during this event, which is in line with our original expectations. As we talked about yesterday, we will be doing damage assessment throughout the evening. We have begun restoration, as the governor said, where it is safe to do so. About 30,000 of those customers have been restored, and that's how we arrive at the 75,000 that are still out at this point in time. It is important to know that early on, we will be able to, bring back meaningful numbers of customers as we fix and repair the larger parts of the network throughout Rhode Island. And as we get into the later parts of the storm, individual outages will take more and more time as they're more dispersed. We do have plenty of resources, including additional resources we're moving down from Massachusetts. But at this point in time, I would still say that we do want folks to understand it's going to take us a couple of days to get the restoration complete.
For the gentleman from National Grid, if you could amplify perhaps your response specifically to the tourist areas of South County. We're staring down at, after a terrible year and a half, we're staring down at literally the last week or so of the summer season until Labor Day. Are you folks prepared to not only respond quickly, but to also publicize your response quickly as to potential tourists for Labor Day weekend?
We are prepared to respond as quickly and as safely as we possibly can. We will be providing continuous updates to outages through our website and through our application. Those numbers are updated every 5 minutes, and that's why you'll see, as we made progress this afternoon and as we do so through the evening, what those numbers will continue to do. We will provide an update on estimated restoration tomorrow morning once we're able to make sure we have our arms around all of the damage that has occurred throughout the state. It is certainly true that we had the majority of the damage, more than 50,000 outages across the southern part of the state, but we still saw meaningful damage throughout Kent and Providence counties as well, and all of that requires attention.
This question is for National Grid as well. Is it possible that full restoration could take over a week?
I believe it'll be less than that.
For National Grid also, how much competition is there for the available resources? I mean, we know Rhode Island's affected. I know what the situation is. You've been keeping us well informed on that. But how much trouble is there in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and as the storm continues to move through those areas, are we competing for resources to restore there?
I wouldn't say we're competing for resources. The utilities, as I mentioned yesterday, work very closely together to coordinate the allocation of resources across the most impacted areas. Last I checked, Connecticut had about 30,000 outages, so they certainly have damage they're dealing with. I believe Massachusetts was over 10 or 15,000 outages as well, so they've got trouble they're dealing with. But we work very carefully and very closely with all of our partner utilities throughout the North Atlantic area to make sure we get the resources to where they need to be.
Would it be fair to characterize Rhode Island as the most affected area in terms of electrical outage from Henri?
Yes.
Thank you.
This question is for the governor. With you spoke about the potential for 90-degree days coming up. Are there any plans in place now with so many customers still without power to open up any kind of shelter? Is the state working on anything right now?
Yeah, so I think we're definitely going to be working on that and certainly working with the National Grid and all the resources that are available to make the, the targeted areas in terms of making sure that people who need their electricity, not that everybody doesn't need it, but my feeling is that we should be able to get this, everybody back up and running as quickly as we can. So we'll take a look at exactly what you're talking about. It's a health risk, especially with the temperatures that we're talking about, but it's also an economic risk. And that's why this is a absolute top priority. We will make that message known loud and clear to the White House, that when I talked to the President, we talked about Westerly, we talked about Sandy. We still are trying to recover money from Sandy. So we're going to put an absolute full-court press in terms of getting people back their power and making sure that they're safe and making sure the economy continues to move in the right direction.
Vicegobernadora Matos, como la comunidad hispana no fue tan afectada, explícale que mañana se va a regresar a trabajar y lo que va a pasar en el estado, por favor.
Gracias por esa pregunta. Mañana nosotros vamos a tener un día funcionando normalmente. Todo el mundo va a trabajar mañana y no estamos diciendo que va a haber ninguna compañía cerrada, al menos que alguien esté afectado directamente por la falta de energía eléctrica, pero hasta ahora todo parece estar en pie para trabajar mañana.
Governor, a message to folks who are hitting the water. We saw a lot of surfers in the water today. Some people might plan on hitting the water tonight. Anything you want to say to those people?
Yeah, don't do it. There's no reason to put, because I've said a couple times, better safe than sorry, and that message still resonates, especially along the water. I was there. The riptide, the power of those of the waves and that type of thing. There's nothing to mess around with. So my advice is wait till we give the green light, and I can tell you that we're going to give the green light and let people know that everything is in good shape as soon as we can, and we're not going to delay that just to kind of extend an emergency. It was mentioned that we may have dodged a bullet, but I'm happy that we have less of a problem here than what we potentially had anticipated when I left here yesterday. It was a Hurricane 1. It could have went to a Hurricane 2, but it went to a tropical, and then the management that was put in place to keep people safe, and now our recovery, which is, I said this morning, the storm is a top priority at that point in time, but the recovery was a top priority. Now our recovery is the top priority. We don't need anybody to get injured or to get hurt. So it's not just the waves and the area in terms of the water, but it's also in down wires. We saw down wires. Stay away from them. Let the professionals deal with the way that they work with it, and it's my job to accelerate that work as quickly as I possibly can.
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions.
Colonel Manny, did you see any incidents out on the roads, whether it was accidents or people disobeying some of the restrictions that were in place earlier?
No, not at all. I traveled quite a bit in the past 2 days, and one thing I was very impressed, more so than any other storm, that the public listened to our request to stay home. I was with the governor in South County looking around, and I was quite pleased that there were very few people out and about.
We'll take the last question here.
For the Red Cross, the question arose earlier about cooling centers or 90-degree heat without power. Could you give us a rough assessment of where things stand with shelters that you've already opened or will be closing, and also if you have any kind of plans or coordination to try to provide cooling centers should those be necessary?
We're constantly working with our partners here. Currently, we're working with PEMA to close the Warwick evacuation site. They've done a phenomenal job. We're going to close Cumberland, and we can reopen any of these within 4 hours if that need arises. So as assessments being done, we can reopen any of these. And then Middletown will remain open until further assessment is done. South Kingston, we had no folks that went to the evacuation site, but that will remain open because we know there's no electricity there and there's some other issues that are there, so that will remain open and allow us to move our assets, our workforce down there to assist. We're also putting Westerly Regional Shelter on standby in the impacted area, just as they assess, we can be prepared to help with that. And then we have potential distribution of cleanup kits if needed and potential mobile feeding if available. So we spoke with our National Grid partners here as well. We're ready to assist any time we can open up any of these, reopen these within 4 hours.
And people can find out the status of the Red Cross shelters local to them on your website?
You can get on the website, and I'm sure RIEMA will also have those posted as well, but we'll be working in tight concert with them.